The laughter stopped the moment the janitor picked up the tennis racket. Only minutes earlier, the richest woman in the city had stood beneath the bright afternoon sun, surrounded by executives, celebrities, and country club members, publicly humiliating a tired single father because of the uniform he wore. She thought he was just a janitor who had accidentally wandered onto the private court. She had no idea that the quiet man standing across from her had once been considered one of the finest young tennis players in the country, and that the secret he had buried for years was about to leave the entire crowd speechless. Before we begin, if you believe kindness can give people a second chance, please like, comment, share this story, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0. Your support helps bring more stories of hope, courage, and second chances. The afternoon had started like any other busy day at the prestigious Northbridge Athletic Club. Sunlight poured across the immaculate tennis courts, the gardens were freshly trimmed, and expensive cars lined the entrance. At the center of attention was 34-year-old Celeste Marlowe, the powerful CEO of Marlowe Technologies. She was famous for her confidence, sharp decisions, and refusal to lose at anything. She wore a crisp white tennis outfit, her dark brown hair tied into a neat ponytail, and she had just won another match against one of the club's senior executives. Nearby, 39-year-old Everett Hale pushed a cleaning cart along the walkway. He wore a Navy maintenance uniform, simple black shoes, and his short dark hair was slightly messy from working since early morning. Unlike everyone around him, Everett did not care about expensive watches or designer clothing. His mind was focused on getting home before sunset because his 8-year-old daughter, Leora, would be waiting for him. Everett had become a janitor after life forced him to start over. Years earlier, he had been a promising tennis player with sponsorship offers and a growing reputation. But after his wife died unexpectedly, Everett walked away from the professional world. His daughter had been only 3 years old, and he decided that being present for her mattered more than trophies, money, or fame. He took whatever honest work he could find and quietly built a new life around his child. That was the part nobody at the club knew. As Everett passed the tennis court, a ball rolled toward his cart. He stopped, picked it up, and gently tossed it back toward the players. Celeste caught it and noticed the way he had thrown it, the ball traveling with unusual precision. She smiled sarcastically and called him over. Everett approached respectfully, assuming she needed something cleaned. Instead, Celeste looked him up and down and jokingly challenged him. She asked whether he had ever held a tennis racket before. A few people laughed. Everett simply smiled and said that he had played a little years ago. Celeste laughed even harder. She told the crowd that if the club janitor could beat her, she would marry him. The words drew shocked laughter from everyone around the court. Everett's expression changed slightly, but he remained calm. He explained that he wasn't interested in making anyone uncomfortable and had work to finish. Celeste, believing he was afraid, continued teasing him. She told him that perhaps he should stick to cleaning floors because tennis required talent. Then Everett noticed something across the court. A little girl was watching through the fence. It was Leora. She had come early with her school backpack because Everett had promised to take her home after work. She looked embarrassed by the crowd's laughter, but she gave her father a small encouraging smile. Everett looked at her, then at the racket. He finally accepted. The crowd gathered around the court, expecting a joke that would last only a few minutes. Celeste confidently served first. The ball flew across the court, but Everett returned it effortlessly. The laughter disappeared. Celeste served again. Everett returned it again. His movements were quiet and controlled. He didn't show off. He didn't celebrate. He simply moved with the natural rhythm of someone who had spent thousands of hours on a tennis court. Celeste's confidence began to disappear. The match continued beneath the clear afternoon sky. Everett's old instincts returned, but he played carefully, refusing to embarrass her. Every time Celeste hit a difficult shot, Everett responded with remarkable accuracy. One executive whispered that the janitor couldn't possibly be that good. Another person started searching Everett's name on his phone. Then someone suddenly went silent. They had found an old newspaper article. Years earlier, Everett Hale had been ranked among the country's most promising young tennis players. He had won several major junior championships and reached the finals of a national tournament before disappearing from professional tennis. The crowd began murmuring. Celeste heard them. Her eyes widened. She asked Everett if the article was about him. Everett didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward Leora. The match resumed. Celeste fought harder now. She no longer saw him as a janitor. She saw the player he had once been, and she refused to lose in front of everyone. But Everett remained steady. Finally, the last ball came toward him. He returned it with a clean, controlled shot that landed perfectly inside the line. The crowd froze. The scoreboard showed that Everett had won. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then applause slowly began. Celeste lowered her racket. She had lost. But Everett didn't celebrate. He simply walked toward the net and offered her a respectful handshake. Celeste looked embarrassed. She remembered her cruel joke and realized how unfairly she had judged him. Then the club manager approached Everett with a completely different expression. He asked why Everett had never mentioned his tennis career. Everett quietly explained that it was a part of his past. After his wife passed away, he had chosen to focus on raising Leora. He didn't want his daughter growing up believing that success was only about fame or money. He wanted her to understand that dignity could be found in honest work. That revelation changed the atmosphere completely. But there was another secret. The club's chairman stepped forward and told the crowd that Everett had once been offered a place at an elite international training academy. He had turned it down because the opportunity would have required him to leave his young daughter for months at a time. Leora stood behind the fence listening. Her eyes filled with emotion. She suddenly understood why her father never complained about working long hours. Everett had sacrificed the life he once dreamed about so that she could have the childhood she deserved. Celeste lowered her head. For the first time in years, she felt ashamed of herself. She approached Everett and apologized sincerely. She admitted that she had judged him because of his uniform and had mistaken quietness for weakness. Everett accepted the apology without anger. He told her that everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is what they do after realizing them. Those words stayed with Celeste. Over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. Celeste began treating every employee at the club with respect. She learned their names. She listened when they spoke. She even apologized publicly for the way she had behaved toward Everett. But Everett never asked for anything in return. He continued cleaning the club every morning. He continued picking up Leora after school. He continued helping her with homework at the kitchen table of their small apartment. One afternoon, Celeste saw Everett teaching Leora tennis in a public park. There were no luxury courts, no expensive spectators, and no cameras. Just a father and daughter enjoying the game. Celeste watched from a distance and realized something important. Everett had never truly lost. He had simply chosen a different definition of victory. Months later, the club created a community tennis program for children who couldn't afford expensive memberships. Everett was invited to coach. At first, he refused. Then Leora encouraged him to accept. Soon, dozens of children were learning tennis from the former champion who had once been laughed at because of his uniform. The program became a success. And Celeste changed too. She began using her company resources to sponsor scholarships for children from families who couldn't afford sports training. She said Everett had taught her that wealth meant little if it wasn't used to give someone else an opportunity. One sunny afternoon, Everett stood beside the court watching Leora play her first junior tournament. Celeste stood nearby with the other parents. Leora won her match. She ran toward her father, smiling proudly. Everett hugged her with a father's quiet joy and told her that he was proud, not because she had won, but because she had tried her best. Celeste watched the moment and smiled. The challenge that had begun with humiliation had become something completely different. It had become a second chance. Everett never became obsessed with returning to professional tennis. He didn't need to. He had already discovered something more valuable than fame. He had a daughter who admired him. He had work that gave him purpose. He had friends who respected him. And he had finally learned that the life he had chosen was not a smaller version of the life he once dreamed about. It was his greatest victory. Years later, whenever people at the club told the story of the famous tennis match, they always remembered the same moment. The moment everyone laughed at the janitor. And the moment everyone stopped laughing when they discovered who he really was. But Everett remembered something else. He remembered Leora standing behind the fence, believing in him before anyone else did. That was the secret that mattered most. Not the trophies. Not the rankings. Not the money. His greatest achievement was choosing his daughter when the world offered him another path. And that afternoon, he proved something the crowd would never forget: sometimes the person wearing the simplest uniform can carry the biggest heart in the room. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0 for more emotional stories about courage, family, kindness, and second chances. Special request: before you leave, comment, "Kindness gives second chances," if you believe that people can change when they choose humility and compassion. Because sometimes, the greatest victory isn't defeating someone across the net. Sometimes, it's choosing love, dignity, and family when nobody is watching. And sometimes, the person everyone overlooks is the one who has already won the most important match of all, the match against giving up.